Have you ever felt invisible? Like no matter what you did, you would never be enough? Sarah Martinez thought she knew what love was, but nothing could have prepared her for the moment everything she believed would be stripped away, and the stranger who would change her life forever. This is a true story of rejection, resilience, and the kind of kindness that reminds us why we're all here. Sarah was 34 years old when her world shattered. Her husband, Michael, had been the love of her life. They met in college, built a modest life together in Phoenix, Arizona, and were finally expecting their first child when tragedy struck. A car accident on Interstate 10 took Michael from her in an instant, but losing her husband wasn't the end of Sarah's nightmare. It was only the beginning. You see, Michael came from what people call old money. His family had expectations, standards, and Sarah, a middle school teacher from a working-class background, had never quite measured up in their eyes. At the funeral, surrounded by hundreds of mourners in expensive black suits, Sarah stood alone. Michael's mother, Patricia, barely acknowledged her. His father didn't meet her eyes once. 3 weeks later, Sarah received the letter. It was formal, cold, typed on heavy cream stationery with the family's embossed letterhead. The message was simple. Sarah was no longer welcome at family gatherings. Her presence was a painful reminder of their loss. They had decided it would be best for everyone if she moved on with her life elsewhere. Translation: she wasn't one of them. She never had been. And without Michael there to bridge the gap, they wanted her gone. Sarah tried to stay strong. She threw herself into her work, teaching 8th grade English to students who needed her. But grief has a way of finding you, especially in the quiet moments. The modest house she and Michael had saved for, it held too many memories. Every corner whispered his name. The life insurance money was there, but Sarah couldn't bring herself to touch it. It felt like blood money, a price tag on a life that was priceless. Then came the second blow. The school district faced budget cuts. Sarah, along with 12 other teachers, was laid off. 20 minutes after receiving the news, she sat in her car in the parking lot and finally broke down. No husband, no family support, no job, and grief so heavy she could barely breathe. That evening, Sarah made a decision. She would leave Phoenix, start over somewhere new, where every street didn't remind her of Michael, where she didn't have to pretend to be okay. She packed her car with whatever fit: clothes, a few photos, her grandmother's quilt. Everything else would be sold or donated. She didn't have a plan. Just a tank of gas and a highway heading east. 3 days later, Sarah's car broke down outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico. The mechanic gave her the news with an apologetic shrug. $1,800 in repairs, minimum. Maybe more if they found additional problems. Sarah sat on a bench outside the garage, watching the sunset paint the desert sky in shades of orange and purple. She had $340 in her checking account. The credit cards were maxed from funeral expenses. This was it, the bottom. "Excuse me, are you all right?" Sarah looked up to see an elderly man standing before her. He was probably in his late 70s, dressed simply in jeans and a button-down shirt, but there was something distinguished about him. Kind eyes framed by deep smile lines. "I'm fine," Sarah lied, wiping her eyes quickly. "Just car trouble." The man nodded slowly, like he understood far more than she'd said. "I'm Robert," he said gently. "I own a small restaurant just down the street. I couldn't help but notice you've been sitting here for a while. Have you eaten? Sarah started to refuse. Pride is a funny thing, but her stomach betrayed her with an audible growl. She hadn't eaten since yesterday. Robert smiled. Come and no strings attached, just food. The restaurant was called Elena's, named after Robert's late wife. It was small, maybe 15 tables, with warm lighting and the smell of green chile and fresh tortillas in the air. Robert didn't just feed Sarah. He sat with her. At first, they talked about small things, the weather, the beauty of New Mexico. But somehow, in the safety of this stranger's kindness, Sarah found herself telling him everything about Michael, the accident, the in-laws who made her feel like she was never good enough, the job loss, the car, the feeling that the universe was sending her a very clear message that she didn't belong anywhere. Robert listened, really listened, not with pity, but with presence. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. My wife, Elena, he finally said. She used to tell me that sometimes we're broken open so that more light can get in. I didn't understand what she meant until I lost her. He paused, his eyes distant with memory. After Elena died, I was lost. We'd built this restaurant together, poured our hearts into it, her recipes, her spirit in every corner. When she was gone, I couldn't even walk through the door without falling apart. Sarah felt tears welling up. She wasn't alone in this pain. But then, Robert continued, I realized something. The restaurant wasn't a monument to my grief. It was a living testament to her love. And the best way to honor her was to keep sharing that love with others. He looked at Sarah directly now. I don't know your full story, and you don't owe me your pain, but I recognize someone standing at a crossroads, someone who's been told they're not enough by people who were never qualified to make that judgment. Sarah felt something shift inside her chest. This stranger saw her, really saw her. My cook just moved to Albuquerque to be near his grandchildren, Robert said. And my server is about to go on maternity leave. I'm not getting any younger, and honestly, running. This place alone is becoming too much. He slid a napkin across the table with an address written on it. There's a small apartment above the restaurant. It's simple, but it's clean and furnished. And I could use someone who understands what it means to put love into work, even when your heart is broken. Sarah stared at the napkin, unable to speak. I'm not offering you charity, Robert said firmly. I'm offering you a job, fair pay, and a place to land while you figure out what comes next. You can cook, can't you? Sarah nodded. She and Michael used to cook together every Sunday. It was one of their traditions. Then stay with me. 3 simple words, whispered like a prayer, like a lifeline. Stay with me. Not I feel sorry for you, not you poor thing, just an invitation to be seen, to be valued, to belong. Sarah couldn't hold back the tears anymore. I don't understand, she managed. You don't even know me. Robert smiled, and in that smile was a lifetime of wisdom. I know enough. I know you're kind enough to worry about being a burden. I know you're strong enough to have survived what would have destroyed many people. And I know that sometimes the kindness we show strangers is really the kindness we wish someone had shown us. Sarah said yes. That first week was hard. She moved into the apartment above Elena's, unpacked her few belongings, and started learning the rhythms of the restaurant. Robert taught her Elena's recipes, each one a love story, written in spices and technique. the green chile stew that Elena made when Robert had a bad day, the sopapillas she'd perfected over 30 years, the pozole that brought the whole community together every Christmas. Sarah cooked with tears running down her face, but they weren't just tears of grief anymore. They were tears of healing. The restaurant's regular customers adopted Sarah immediately. They didn't ask intrusive questions. They simply welcomed her. The librarian who always ordered the same thing, the construction workers who came in every morning, the high school students who needed a safe place after school. She wasn't invisible here. She mattered. 3 months in, something remarkable happened. Sarah was closing up one evening when a young woman came to the door, clearly distressed. She was maybe 19, with a black eye poorly covered by makeup. "I'm sorry," the girl stammered. "I know you're closed. I saw the lights, and do you have a phone I could use?" Sarah didn't hesitate. "Come in. Are you safe?" The girl broke down. Her boyfriend had hit her. She'd finally left, but had nowhere to go and no money. Sarah looked at her and saw herself 3 months ago. Broken, alone, standing at a crossroads. She made the girl a plate of food, called a local women's shelter, gave her $50 from her own pocket and the address of resources. But more than that, she told her, "You are enough, exactly as you are, and you deserve kindness." The same words she'd needed to hear. 6 months after Sarah started at Elena's, Robert asked her to join him for coffee one morning before the restaurant opened. He seemed nervous, which was unlike him. "There's something I need to tell you," he began. "I haven't been entirely honest with you." Sarah's heart sank. What now? Robert took a breath. "My full name is Robert William Castellano. Before I opened this restaurant with Elena, I was the CEO of Castellano Industries." Sarah's eyes widened. Castellano Industries, one of the largest manufacturing companies in the Southwest, billions in revenue. "I retired 20 years ago," Robert continued. "Sold my shares, divided most of the money among various charities and our children. Elena and I wanted a simple life. This restaurant was our dream, not an investment, our purpose." "Why are you telling me this?" Sarah asked. Robert's eyes grew misty. "Because you need to know that when I offered you a place here, it wasn't from pity. It was from recognition. I've met thousands of people in my life, CEOs, politicians, celebrities. But you know who I remember? The people with kind hearts, the ones who show up, the ones who keep going." He reached across the table and took her hand. "You, Sarah, are one of the remarkable ones. And I need you to hear this from someone who's been on both sides. Your worth has nothing to do with what your in-laws thought of your bank account or your pedigree. Your worth is in how you show up in the world." Sarah's story didn't end there. It multiplied. She took the lessons Robert taught her about kindness and paid them forward. Every month, Elena's started hosting a community dinner where anyone could come and eat, regardless of ability to pay. People contributed what they could: money, time, stories. The young woman Sarah had helped that night, her name was Jessica. She got clean, finished her GED, and now volunteers at the same women's shelter that helped her. Sarah started a small scholarship fund in Michael's name for students wanting to become teachers. Nothing huge, just enough to buy books and supplies. But it mattered, and slowly, over 2 years, Sarah rebuilt herself, not into who she was before, into someone stronger, someone who understood that being broken doesn't mean being worthless, it means being human. She never heard from Michael's family again. And you know what? That was okay. She'd found her real family, the people who showed up, who saw her, who chose kindness. Now here's what makes this story remarkable. Robert could have done anything with his retirement. He'd built an empire. He could have traveled the world, lived in luxury, kept himself comfortable. Instead, he chose to run a small restaurant in Santa Fe, to be present, to create a space where people felt seen. And when he saw Sarah on that bench, broken and alone, he didn't see a charity case. He saw a human being who needed what we all need, to be told we matter. Robert passed away last year at age 82. The funeral was packed not with billionaires and power brokers, but with the people whose lives he'd touched, the single mothers he'd given jobs, the struggling families he'd fed quietly, the young people he'd mentored. Sarah spoke at his funeral. She told this story, and she ended with this. Robert taught me that kindness isn't about grand gestures. It's about noticing. It's about showing up. It's about whispering to someone who's lost, "Stay with me," and meaning it. So why am I telling you this story? Because right now, someone in your life feels like they're not enough. Maybe it's a coworker struggling silently, a neighbor going through a divorce, a young person who doesn't fit in. Maybe it's you. We live in a world that constantly measures worth by the wrong metrics. Bank accounts, job titles, social media followers, the approval of people who were never qualified to judge us in the first place. But real worth, it's measured in moments of connection, in showing up, in choosing to see people when the world has taught them they're invisible. You don't need to be a billionaire to change someone's life. You just need to notice, to care, to offer what you have, even if it feels small. A meal, a conversation, a job, 3 words, "Stay with me." Sarah was told she wasn't enough by people who had everything except the thing that mattered most, compassion. And she was saved by a man who had everything and chose to give the most valuable thing he possessed, his presence. Elena's restaurant is still running, by the way. Sarah owns it now. Robert left it to her in his will. She's expanded the community dinners. She employs people who need second chances. And above the kitchen door, there's a plaque that reads, "You are enough, exactly as you are." Elena and Robert. Every person who walks through that door sees those words. And for some of them, it's the first time in their entire lives they've heard it. So I'll leave you with this question. Who in your life needs to hear that they're enough? Who needs someone to notice them, to see them, to whisper, "Stay with me"? You have that power right now, today. Use it. If this story touched your heart, please share it. Because somewhere out there, someone is sitting on a bench, feeling invisible, wondering if they matter. Let them know they do. Subscribe for more true stories of kindness that remind us what really matters. And remember, you are enough, exactly as you are.